The author of this story notes that their native language is not English, so if the wording sounds a little off at times, that's why. I live in a fairly large city where girls get harassed all the time, so I'm kind of used to guys driving slowly next to you in their cars, walking up to you and asking you for their number. I was at my parents' house and had to be home early in the morning. My mom advised me to just stay home and travel in the morning because she does not want me traveling so late. But I feel invincible and sturdy living in the big city. And for the record, I am actually not invincible nor am I sturdy. I'm about 5'3" and fairly petite. So not being on my guard, I took the late subway home, alone. There was a guy sitting across to me, saying a few things. I wasn't entirely sure if he was talking to himself or if he was talking to me, but I did not want to look at him. Eventually, he left the subway compartment. All the time, I did not notice the guy sitting behind me, a normal-looking white male in his 40s. The fact that he was sitting right behind me was a little weird and kind of creepy because almost the entire compartment was empty. Something was off about him and I did not feel comfortable next to him. Being on my guard now, I constantly heard him moving, shifting, and hearing his coat grit. Finally, I gathered all my courage and looked at him in the window. His hand was real sneaky between the window and the chair, about to grab my arm. I turned around real fast. "What?" I asked him boldly. He was startled and just asked me what was up. I walked out of the compartment and did not look back. I still don't know if he was doing something weird or out of line or actually did want to try and grab my arm and touch me, but at the time I did not feel right and I'm glad that I took action. I don't think that I will ever take the late subway anytime soon. I know that my story isn't nearly as scary as some of the other ones on this website, but it is one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me, so I thought that I would share it with you guys. I'm a female, and I was 14 when this happened to me. I'm from a big city in Germany, and that afternoon I wanted to buy a birthday present for a friend of mine. I planned on taking the subway downtown where all of the shops were located. Even though my home city is big, I considered it very safe, so I never felt unsafe going to friends' houses or downtown by myself. While I was waiting on the train platform, a guy slowly walked past me and stopped just a few meters away from me. I remember that he must have been in his late teens or early 20s and that he had glasses on. While I looked around the platform, bored, since the subway wouldn't arrive for another 3 minutes, I noticed that the same guy was looking directly at me. Being a rather shy girl back then, I quickly looked away. After a few seconds, I wanted to check if he was still looking, and I took a quick glance over, and surely enough, the guy was still staring at me. This went on until the subway train arrived. By then, I was feeling very uncomfortable. Luckily, there had been a few other people on the platform, so I did feel kind of safe. I got on the train and succeeded to snatch one of the few empty seats left, since it was close to Christmas and the subway was packed with people. I couldn't see the guy from my seat, so I was able to calm down a bit. A couple of minutes later, I got off at my stop and took the escalator up to the street. While standing on the escalator, I turned around, and my heart sank. The creepy guy from the platform was standing just a few meters behind me on the same escalator, and he was still staring at me. I tried to calm myself down by thinking that this station was a popular meeting spot, and a lot of people who wanted to go shopping got off here. And since it was close to Christmas, he was probably just some random shopper, right? When I arrived on the street, I turned right, walked down the street, and turned right again at the next corner. When I turned the corner, I quickly looked down the street I was coming from, and the guy was walking in my direction. I felt really uncomfortable, so I entered a bookshop and waited behind one of the bookshelves for the guy to walk wherever he was headed to. After a few minutes, I exited the shop, and that was the moment that I started to panic. The guy was standing just a few meters away from the store, just waiting for me. I should have ran back into the store and called my parents to pick me up. Instead, stupid 14-year-old me hoped that there was a logical explanation for this guy's behavior and that he might just have been waiting for somebody else. So I got out of the store and walked in the opposite direction of where the guy was. I walked faster, hoping that if he was following me, I would be able to lose him amongst all of the other shoppers. But when I turned right at the next corner, I looked back down the street again. He was still just a few fucking meters behind me. While I walked even faster, I felt like I was about to cry, but I knew I had to keep calm. So I turned right once more, and when I looked back, I could still see him behind me, and I was positive that he was indeed following me. I mean, what other reason would he have to just walk around a block without entering any of the shops? While I tried to come up with a way to escape, I suddenly saw my chance. The streetlight on the crossing just a few meters in front of me had turned red and I started running as fast as I could. I managed to make it just barely to the other side of the street before the lane became packed with traffic again. Thankfully, the guy didn't make it across the street and was still standing on the other side, waiting for the traffic light to turn red again, and he was still staring at me. But this time with a creepy, wide grin. At that moment, I felt so scared as I had never felt this way before in my life, and I started to run again. This time, into a big department store just a few meters away from me. I knew that the department store had another entrance at the back, facing the other street. On that street, there was usually a line of cabs waiting to pick up shoppers. I sprinted through the store and ran out of the other entrance. To my greatest relief, there was that usual line of cabs. I practically jumped into the first one I saw. In tears, I told the cab driver my home address and shouted, "Quick, quick, quick," while frantically looking back to the door, expecting the guy to come out any second. Fortunately, though, I didn't see him. I'm still thankful that the cab driver instantly started driving and only asked what had happened and if I was alright when we were a few blocks away from the department store. In tears and completely shaken up, I told him about the guy that was following me and how scared I was, and when we arrived at my parents' house, he refused to charge me and waited until I was safely inside. To this day, I am still grateful for that cab driver.